Hi everyone. I want to talk a little bit about the nature of this course, Knowledge, Responsibility, and Society, Philosophy 5665. And I want to do that both in terms of giving you an overview of what I hope that we can accomplish in this course, and also looking through the syllabus and giving you a sense of the kind of practical work of the course and all of that. So what is this course about? Well, as some of you will be aware, it is part of the Theoretical and Applied Ethics Certificate, which is in the philosophy department here at UCF. And some of you may have already taken the other course in that certificate, which is a theoretical ethics course. This course is intended to get at something, I guess, rather different from that course. And you don't need that other course to succeed in this one, although obviously it's a good thing if you have it. But this course really attempts to not just be an ethics course, but to be an ethics course that is focused on, if you wish, the real world implications of ethical decisions. That's why we have 3 words in the title, and I'm going to be coming back to these 3 words over and over again in this course. Knowledge, responsibility, and society. Okay, so what does that imply? Well, knowledge is what we philosophers call epistemology. Epistemology has to do with questions not only of what counts as knowledge, how we demarcate or divide between knowledge and something else, maybe opinion, maybe belief, maybe who knows what, but also how we come to that knowledge. Like, what are reliable means for coming to knowledge? How can we be sure we have knowledge and haven't just kind of mistakenly stumbled onto something that happens to be true, but we can't really necessarily call knowledge. So that's the first term. So it's really about epistemology. The second term, responsibility, is how I'm understanding the notion of ethics. Okay, so responsibility we often think of as a very kind of individualistic sort of thing. Do you have responsibility for something? Like who's responsible, right? We ask, and when we ask that kind of question, we're usually meaning to pin blame or maybe praise on somebody. When we think of responsibility in this course, we're going to think of it in a somewhat more diffuse manner. Yes, individual responsibility will certainly matter, but also we want to think about responsibility of structures, of systems, of larger scale sorts of things. In other words, it is at least possible that we can all act in good faith and in goodwill and yet still have bad outcomes for something. And so if that's the case, we can't trace a responsibility back to an individual's, bad action or bad intentions or something like that. And yet we still want to get at the question of how can we make things better. So that's part of what we're catching up with, the notion of responsibility. Society, the third word. Every one of our decisions happens within a set of social institutions, social conventions. When I see the word society here, at least, I'm going to mean things like the institutions that we find ourselves embedded in. Okay, so I don't mean society in some kind of vague manner of society believes this, or here's what society expects of you. I mean, it's hard to kind of pin that sort of thing down. What we're going to focus on more is the question of how ethics happens within social organizations, social institutions. So what I have in mind are things like the medical system, the educational system, the legal system, any one of these kinds of large-scale institutions which in a certain sense both makes a set of things possible but also constrains our activity. And so often our ethical decisions are happening within that kind of space. Often our knowledge is produced within that kind of space as well. So we can add to those institutions the scientific institutions, set of financial institutions, banks, and things of that nature. Right? There's a lot of different ways that we can think about institutions and organizations. And so we're going to want to ask the questions of ethics as they happen within that space. And so society is hopefully going to mean something more specific than just here's what society thinks in that kind of vague manner. So that's the focus. It's never going to just be, ethics in the abstract, okay? We're not going to be interested in talking about things like the trolley problem here or something like that. If you don't know what the trolley problem is, go and, look it up. It's everywhere. We're going to be interested in the ways in which ethics plays itself out in, if you wish, the real world. Now, sometimes people might think that this, we've left philosophy when we do this. Philosophers should be concerned about abstractions, about the, the abstract good, And I'm not sure that's actually true. I think philosophy is most rich and most significant when it thinks about how to think clearly and carefully within those various spaces, okay? Without reducing those sorts of things to, let's say, ethics as if it were just a set of case studies or a set of rules that professionals should follow or something like that, okay? I'd like to think about ethics past that, right? I'd like to think about the ethical responsibility of somebody who's a whistleblower, right? Somebody who says, here are the requirements of my profession and I'm going to go against them because there's something else that compels me. Something else that says I need to do something more than just what my profession expects of me, okay? Somebody who decides to not follow the culture of an institution, but push against it, right? And so we've seen that throughout history. I mean, we've seen people, not go to the back of the bus, like Rosa Parks. Well, she's pushing against a legal system at that point to do an ethical thing, right? And so, in other words, I'm interested in ethics not just in terms of how we cash it out within institutions, but what it means to think about ethics that might go beyond the imagination of that institution, okay? So you can see in the syllabus, if you've taken a look, you can see I raise a bunch of questions, and it's really just a sampling of questions at the beginning. What does responsibility look like in a digital world? That's really an interesting one these days. How do advances in medical and environmental knowledge relate to the state of our social policy and ethical institutions? How should they relate? We want to ask about, our responsibilities towards knowledge. Let's say that we have generated something like scientific knowledge about, let's say, climate change or, genetic manipulation or something like that. How should that be factored in to our ethical decisions? Is it relevant? Is it irrelevant? For some people, they might think, rules dropped from on high or are coded in a holy book of some sort, and we start from that, and whatever science finds out is irrelevant, right? The rules are the rules, or the ethical standards are the ethical standards. Others will say, those things are figured out within every faith tradition and with every philosophical tradition as new information becomes available. And so, so that's the kind of question that I want to grapple with, in this course. I think these are really important questions, and we're going to end off with questions around what we might call post-truth or post-facts, which is so current to today's media environment, social media especially, and other sorts of things in the political world, in the social world, all sorts of other places. So to do that, the path through the course we're going to take, and I talk a little bit about this elsewhere. The first part of the course, the first about 5 or 6 weeks, maybe 4 weeks of the course, are going to be a kind of quick primer on some aspects of the history of philosophy. While this is a graduate level philosophy course, I'm not assuming that really anyone has a lot of philosophical background in this course. And so I know that we have to do some getting everyone on the same page kinds of work. I have chosen a number of kind of significant texts over the past, few thousand years of philosophy. Obviously, it's highly selective. And I talk in one place about how I'm fully aware how white and male and Eurocentric it is as well. And we're going to talk about that throughout the course as well. Like what does it mean for ethics to take into account something other than an Enlightenment tradition or a Western tradition of some sort. Nevertheless, if we're going to get on the same page, as it were, to think about what people push back against, we need to understand what that is. Okay, and so we're going to look at a number of figures, take a quick trip through Plato, Aristotle, Augustine, Hobbes, Mill, Marx, Weber, Nietzsche, Heidegger, Gadamer, David Harvey, and Foucault, in order that we can think about how, if you wish, the mainstream of philosophy thinks about the intersection of these questions, and how we might push back against those things, okay? So that, in a philosophy course, the point is never to give you a set of readings or a set of thinkers with the view that you should adopt their ideas, right? They're there to inform the conversation that we have. And so that's how we're starting the first few weeks of the course. From there, we go into what I think of as really the core text of the course, which is this one by Lorraine Code. I covered up her name, yes I have. Lorraine Code, who is a philosopher from Canada. She is or was at York University. I think she's retired at this point. This book, Ecological Thinking, The Politics of Epistemic Location, really picks up all of the major themes of our course. And in fact, it really could be thought of as part of the genesis of this course, really. Code is somebody who is in some ways a friend of the department. She has been to the department before, and this course really originated in thinking through some issues that she raised. And so she is still, this is a 2006, I think, book. Really, it's still a fabulous book, I think, for thinking through the intersection of these areas. By fabulous book, I don't necessarily mean that I expect everyone to agree with her, right? It's a philosophy course. That's not how we approach these things. The next set of texts we're going to look at is really a set of studies that was done under the Obama presidency by a commission that he initiated to look at issues around biological issues and bioethical issues, really. And so they produced quite a lot of really interesting material. We're going to choose three case studies, if you wish, and look at some of the ethical questions around these biological issues. So we've got some issues in neuroscience, we've got some issues in genome sequencing, and we've got a very specific case, which was STD research in Guatemala, which really kind of initiated some of the ethical protocols that we currently have, what we know as IRB protocols, or Institutional Review Board protocols, that govern what kind of research you can do and what's ethical and what isn't. And so we're going to look at 3 out of, I think, about a dozen or so cases that they published there, and those are going to be linked online as well. The next text for the course is actually a text of your choice. One thing I recognize with a course like this is that I've got people from a lot of different backgrounds. You all come with expertise. You're all graduate students or in a graduate course because you've got undergraduate training. You've got areas of interest. You've got you've got a lot that you're bringing to this. What I want you to do is choose your own text for the course. I want you to look through what we're doing in this course and see if you can find something relevant to an area that you are interested in. Something that picks up ethical issues, that picks up questions around knowledge and around social institutions in medicine, in law, in policing, in finance, in wherever it is you're coming from, okay? You'll need to clear the book with me, right? I want to make sure that it's a book that's kind of robust enough that you can sink your teeth into it. But I really want to connect the issues that we're bringing up in this course to areas that you are studying elsewhere. And so if I can help you think through some kind of core issues within your own areas or disciplines, I think this will be a valuable exercise for you to take back there. So we're going to be doing that, and I'm going to be asking you to hand in an assignment connected to that, and also upload a somewhat shortened version of that to a discussion post so that everyone can see what you're working on and can comment on it, okay? Because I want us all to benefit from these various texts that you're going to find. And I expect to learn things, right? You have areas that I don't have, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with. So the final text for the course is this one by Lee McIntyre. It's called Post-Truth. And I wanted to end the course with this because really it's just such a current issue, right? And it really picks up the issues within our course. What counts as truth anymore? That's the question of knowledge, isn't it? What counts as ethical action if we take a particular version of truth as the one that we're going to run with? And how do our social institutions, including our political institutions, spin off or connect to the conclusions we make about what counts as knowledge, or in this case, truth. You may like this book, you may not like this book. Again, as with any book, this is really to start the conversation. And so you might decide, what McIntyre's doing is great. You might decide he's only given us a partial picture, a skewed picture in some way. That's great. That's all part of the conversation that we're going to have. So, so that's kind of the text that we're going to look at. You've probably gone to the syllabus and seen the kind of work that I'm asking for in this course. Let me spin through that quickly here just to give you a sense. First off, there is the inevitable mandatory financial aid quiz. It does not count towards the course grade, but everyone has to do it. It's a requirement of the university so that they can tell who actually starts a course. So that's going to be up in the quiz section, and I'd ask you to do that in the first week of the course. There are going to be discussions and participation grades each week. That is, a lot of this course is going to be discussion post based. There are going to be modules as well where I put up videos and other content. But I'm thinking of this course as much as possible as a grad seminar course. If you've been in one of those in real life before, you will know that what happens is that you all come into the room, there's a big table, everyone sits around the table, there's a set of readings for the week, somebody's presenting on those readings, they present for a certain amount of time, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, and then there's discussion. Everyone talks through it all. The professor is there, in other words, not to lecture all the time, but rather to be the leader of the discussion. That the leadership is really handed off to the discussion or to the presenter in any given week, but the professor is there to provide background, to provide context, to kind of correct misreadings of things and all of that sort of thing. In other words, in a graduate seminar, we are treating everyone in the class as a kind of set of colleagues in a certain sense, as opposed to the professor being the source of all knowledge and wisdom and the students simply soaking that in, right? You all come to this course with something. I want to get that something out of you. You all come with the ability to read, to understand things. I know this is philosophy, it might not be familiar to you, but you can do it, okay? And so that's the way that I'm thinking about the discussions. I want people engaged with the course. To that end, as you will notice, there is a seminar presentation as well. And the due date for that will be different weeks, depending on which week you sign up for. There are more people in this class than there are weeks for presentation. What that means is that there are going to be some weeks that have 2 people. Okay? That's fine with me. I've tried this in different formats. I've tried kind of breaking the class in half and having half have their own discussion and the other half have their discussion. I'd rather have everyone together, kind of virtually together. And so what that means is that for some weeks at least, we're going to have 2 discussions. You will find a link in the discussions to a place where I'm asking you to give me your top 3 choices for what you would like to present on. And I will make up a schedule as quickly as possible. The first module, which starts on Wednesday, is fair game. If somebody wanted to do that as a presentation, they could do that. I realize that's very, very quick. And so I won't be surprised if nobody, signs up for that one. But it is a possible thing to do. So I'm asking for your top 3 because I need to kind of sort out all of the weeks so that there's full coverage. If you find yourself in a week where there are 2 presenters, you don't divide the work between you. Both of you do all of them. Okay. I have instructions. There's some in the syllabus here, but even more in the modules and in the assignment prompt for what I'm looking for in presentations. Okay, so please read those. You'll get hopefully a pretty clear idea of what I'm looking for. It will be really your responsibility to kind of clarify and talk through what's going on in the readings for the week and pose some discussion questions so that gets us going, okay? And I will still obviously be in the discussions and I will be posting kind of commentaries on some of the readings as well. But I'd like the presenter to take the lead in any given week. That's a very traditional way for these seminars to happen. Okay, so that's the seminar presentation part of this. I already mentioned the review of the your choice of course text, and so that's got a grade attached to it as well. And then there's a final paper, and this final paper has a few parts to it. There's a prospectus that's due 1 month before the paper deadline, so that means 1 month before the first day of final exams. First day of final exams is April 21st, so I guess that would be March 21st. The prospectus is really your short idea of what the central question is that you want to address and how you're going to address it, and also what kind of sources you're going to be drawing on. This is a place where you can connect the course material to your own areas of research or work in your majors. It's fine with me. And so we can talk about what that is. I have you do a prospectus so that we can work through some of the kinks early on. I don't want to just give you a paper deadline at the end without a chance to work with you on what a good paper might look like. So there's that first chance, the prospectus. The second chance is that I'm going to have you towards the end of the course post a short descriptive post in the discussion area about what your paper is about. This is fairly close to the time when the paper will be submitted, but it's before that, which means that everyone can post this, everyone can comment on each other's paper, and hopefully everyone can help each other. You know, if there's a source, if you're writing on something and somebody else says, hey, have you looked at this source? And you never even heard of that source, that's actually a pretty good thing for you to know about. You know, have you thought about this counter argument? Have you thought about, you know, this particular case? You know, all sorts of stuff like that can come out when we have a chance to look at each other's work. Okay, so you'll take that, and then you'll have a few days to kind of revise your paper a little bit if that's what you want to do. I'm not asking you to post your whole paper. I'm asking for a summary of your paper, a quick elevator talk if you wish. And then on the first day of final exams, April 21st, I'm asking you for you to submit that paper. Okay, so that's the work for the course. In many ways, a very typical kind of graduate seminar type work. The only other thing I would point out in the syllabus is that there's what I call the fine print appended to the syllabus after the schedule. And I would ask you to read through all of that as well. It's got all the kind of, if you wish, details of the course. It's grown longer every year. Every course I do, it seems like there's more stuff to put in there. But that answers a lot of the questions that you might have about the course. You know, and it's really kind of generalized sort of sense of how I'm hoping that this course will go and what to do and what not to do under various circumstances. So that's the syllabus, and if there are any questions about you know, any of this, obviously I'm very happy to try and answer those. And the first module, which is module 0, is only a couple of days long, and it's really just meant for introductions. So please go into the discussion area and introduce yourself, and we will start in on the content on Wednesday. Please take a look at what you would like to present on, and post your top 3 choices as soon as possible, because I would very much like to get a schedule together so that we all know where we stand on all of that. All right, so we're gonna have fun, folks. Looking forward to it.